According to Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, Dr. Blaylock, and countless other medical doctors that we've had on, and the medical research, the Army knows, the government knows, that more dangerous than the mercury, which acts as an adjuvant, is squalene. It is the worst. And it killed a lot of U.S. troops. It maimed hundreds of thousands. And this has now even come out in Congress. So when the CDC and the World Health Organization, who's in control of this, orders that the European vaccines have high levels of squalene and that squalene be mixed here, because they couldn't legally have it put in here, so they add it later, because they know they're dealing with a stupid, not stupid, but uninformed nurse or doctor. This is so diabolical. I want to go back to General Stubblebine and then back to Dr. Laibow. There's so much I want to cover here today. General, bottom line, we talk about eugenics. We talk about population reduction. We have the UN documents. We have their own statements. Is there any doubt in your mind that this is part of a depopulation program, that they're just setting the precedent now for forced inoculation, testing how serious the soft kill weapons they put in the vaccines, food and water, can be, and putting binary weapons into us, as some documents show, so later they can introduce a new pathogen and wipe control groups out? Because everything we see, the architecture being built, is a kill system. And then, of course, 6 months ago, we received a key piece of the puzzle. Eco-Science, written by John P. Holdren, the White House science czar, that says, we're going to put poison in your water to sterilize you. We're going to put stuff in your vaccines to sterilize you. And we have all these other UN documents saying the same thing. I mean, we have them doing it, but it's so diabolical, the average person just can't believe it's actually happening. General Stubblebine.
Well, just think about it for a few minutes. I keep going back to the principles of war because it lays it all out very simply. One of the principles is called surprise. Another one is called simplicity. So think about this. I announced that there's going to be swine flu. So I surprise everybody with the fact that they've got swine flu coming. So everybody, very simply, walks in and says, vaccinate me now because I don't want swine flu. So now what do they put into the swine flu vaccine? Stuff that will make you very, very infertile, if not dead. Now, think about this. Who are they giving it to? Children, pregnant women, and the chronically ill. What happens to a child if he's now infertile? He never has a family. What happens to a pregnant woman now? She doesn't have any more children. So where do you go? Suddenly, the population stops. And what have you got? You have got genocide, period.
I want to go back to the squalene. A few molecules of squalene will make you very, very sick. The amount of squalene that they're putting into human beings, and two of the vaccines that the United States has illegally approved and that we hope to stop tomorrow in our lawsuit, in our hearing in Washington, two of those vaccines are already squalene adjuvanted, one by Novartis and one by GlaxoSmithKline. But then they will add the squalene at the 90,000 injection locations for the rest of the vaccines, and it's at the level 1 million times more than that which was put into the vaccine A, which in the presence of pig-derived proteins with sugar on them, glycoproteins, and human-derived glycoproteins, will cause immune-mediated sterility, according to 2 patents filed in 1998. So,
if you're not already dead.
If it doesn't kill you right off the bat, it will make you sterile, which is why these vaccines are being aimed at children, so the next generation will never be born, and at fertile women who are already proven fertile because they're pregnant.
I want the magnitude of this to sink in, because on the inserts it admits these vaccines are associated with infertility and sterility. And as you said, they're aiming them right at the children and women. Unbelievable. We're going to talk about a host of issues in this final hour with Major General Albert Stubblebine and his wife, medical doctor Rima Laibow. Your phone calls are coming up at the 20 after. So go ahead and line up. But I'm going to go ahead and clear the call board. Calls only for General Stubblebine and Dr. Laibow, period. But it's a wide area to discuss, but we're going to spend our time, the valuable time we have with them, on this subject. We're going to talk about solutions in the next segment. We're going to talk about COINTELPRO attacking myself, Dr. Laibow, General Stubblebine, and anybody else that's effective. So we're going to discuss that. That's the badge of honor. When you're over the target, you're getting the flak. And the establishment admits the people are hurting them. I think they've overreached with this operation. But Dr. Laibow and General Stubblebine, they are aiming these at women and children and people that are fertile. Just as the UN, as you know, you can give people the name of the hormone, were caught adding a synthetic hormone to tetanus shots to sterilize women. And that's the stated UN goal. I mean, they admit they're doing it to us in their own government policy books. We better listen to them. So speak to that and the numbers on cancer, the numbers on diabetes, the numbers on autism. I mean, they are killing us, and they're incrementally turning up the ambient background on the soft kill and then institutionalizing all of our deaths and disease and just standardizing it where everybody gets cancer every year. Everybody has diabetes. Everybody's infertile. 87% men's sperm count down. Infertility in women skyrocketing. Real fast, buzz through the numbers for folks, Dr. Laibow.
The World Health Organization says in their public writings that they want to reduce the population by 90%, and they have been using infertility vaccines since 1974. In 1985, they said in a public document that they were using these infertility vaccines disguised as smallpox vaccines. And by the way, the hormone is not a synthetic hormone. It's a natural hormone called human chorionic gonadotrophin, HCG, which they introduced into the vaccine. And then women make antibodies to their own hormones so they can never again carry a baby.
Okay, doctor, my point was in the medical articles I read, and you can correct me, this was years ago, they pointed out that it had to be done by design because it had been simulated a natural hormone. I understand it's a natural hormone, but is that incorrect, that they artificially made it?
Well, they artificially introduced it. At the time that they began this, they didn't have the technology to clone it. Maybe they do now. But the point is that it's molecularly identical to the natural hormone, and then women make antibodies to it, so their body attacks their own pregnancies forever. That's one way of creating an immune reaction. Another way is by putting in squalene, which in the presence of proteins with sugar on them and bioreceptors and many, many, many hormones and so on are glycoproteins. In the presence of the glycoproteins, the immune system turns on the fertility system and attacks it, and there will never again be a pregnancy, or there will never be fertility if the person who receives this high squalene dose is a child. We're talking about ending the next generation. I also want to remind listeners that we now know, as of today, that two scientists, one of them named Robert Webster and the other Richard Webby, are listed as patent holders for U.S. patent application 20090010962 for genetically engineered swine flu influenza virus and uses thereof. Robert Webster and Richard Webby are employed by the World Health Organization at their influenza laboratory. Now, if that doesn't say the whole thing, then I don't know what does. So we have squalene for infertility. We have squalene for profound autoimmune disorders. We have the swine flu that will kill large numbers of people through the vaccination. And we have the pandemic international health regulations, which allow the...
All right, stay there. We got to come back. We'll continue along that line with our guests.
Hey, folks, this is